A notorious local pimp will spend life in prison without the possibility of parole. It's the longest sex trafficking sentence in the United States in the last 6 years. Officials say it's the result of a more aggressive stance on pimping in Portland.
It has grown to be the second largest criminal problem in the United States. First problem, of course, being our drug problem. Second problem being sex trafficking. And third, gun running.
By the time I came out of that room, I couldn't tell you the guy's name, couldn't even tell you what I did. But I had $250 in my pocket.
I'm Dr. Cindy Romine, and I am the CEO and president of Called to Rescue. And we are centered in and focused on rescuing minor children from sex trafficking worldwide. 1.2 million children are missing worldwide every year, which the Department of Justice now says there are 28 million residual missing children somewhere in the world that are still being sex trafficked. 70% of all children missing are female, 30% are male. 50% of all pimps are women. Some of these women are young. We've just apprehended a girl 17 years old who is a pimp, and in the last few months has taken 4 girls and put them into sex trafficking here in Vancouver, Washington.
I was 13 and I was walking downtown Seattle, and a pimp came up to me. I didn't know he was a pimp, and he had said, "What you doing out here on a day like this?" And I was like, "Oh, trying to make some money." And he looked at me and he says, "Really? Well, let me show you." He says, "I can show you how to make some money. Why don't you go have a seat here?" And he took me to a bar and sat down, and he ordered me a drink. And I didn't drink, and I'd never heard of any drinks, so I just ordered a Greyhound, which was really gross. But I was impressed by him because I was only 13 and they were serving me alcohol in a club.
The average age of a girl taken in sex trafficking in the United States today is between 12 and 13 years old. How do these pimps get girls? What do they look for? How do they lure them in? We just rescued a girl who didn't have many friends in high school. She wasn't extremely gorgeous until you actually looked at her face, and then she was very gorgeous, but she didn't realize how gorgeous she was. And my girl was out walking her dog, and girl number 2 came up and she was walking her dog, and they walk their dogs together every morning. Then girl number 2 said to my girl, "Hey, let's just share rent." And when girl number 2 moved into her apartment, she brought a whole gang with her. They drugged her, they had her online, and they were selling her. It can be that simple. It can be as simple as a guy going up and saying, "Hey, you're really cute, you know, let's go get a Coke." And of course, young girls are very flattered by that.
Pimps look for girls that want to be loved, that are looking for a daddy figure, that look lost, and that they can control, either emotionally, mentally, and eventually it becomes physically.
One of the main places that your child can be lured is at the mall. And the police in our area say that within 3 hours, if a girl is alone at a food court in a mall in our area, they can be taken in sex trafficking. And I've actually watched it happen in much less time than that and rescued out of that. If a pimp looks at 3 girls, if 3 girls are together in a mall and he's going to target somebody, he will not target the most beautiful one because she's too self-confident. He will not target the uglier one because she would not believe he would choose her over the other 2. He would target the middle child because she's flattered he did not choose the gorgeous one and chose her instead. So he picks that middle child, looks a little vulnerable, doesn't carry herself with a lot of confidence, and he picks that child, and it goes after that child to flatter her and lure her away. And so that luring process can take anywhere from 15 minutes to 6 months. There are parents who have had pimps actually become part of the family, date their daughter. As soon as somebody starts questioning his motives, that kid takes that girl and runs, and You know, the internet plays such an important role in this whole process of trafficking. It can happen by a girl being online and a guy approaching her on Facebook, email, Twitter. That connection happens. So it happens in varied ways, but it's always usually pretty much the same story. Vulnerable child wants to be loved and is lured away.
When you're with a pimp, they have total control. You're not allowed to look at other pimps. You're not allowed to, of course, talk to any other pimps. They demand or require that you call them daddy. And they want all the money. They have you drop every dime that you make. And in return, they give you crack. You know, they pay the bills, they buy you clothes, and that's basically your return. They're supposed to take care of you.
Once a pimp has a child, they use the internet to advertise. You can actually order like a menu. I want a girl that weighs this much, has this color eye, Asian, black, white, Hispanic, everything that you possibly could want, and then they also list off what service they want.
I would walk into a room and it was like lights, camera, action. I would go into a room and I would just do whatever it is I was doing. And by the time I came out of that room, I couldn't tell you the guy's name, couldn't even tell you what I did. But I had $250 in my pocket. I'm trying to tell him I need the money, and he's telling me no, and he starts tearing off my clothes. And I told him, no, you're going to pay me. And he said, no, he's not. And so kicked him in the nuts, and I took off running. But it was really weird because he had like 3 locks on his door, so I had to unlock the doors while he's trying to grab at my feet because he was on the ground. And so I unlock the doors, I get out, and then when I go to take the stairs down, every one of the doors opens backwards. So I have to open it and go around it. All 5 flights. And I get down to the bottom, and just as I get down to the bottom, he was chasing behind me. All of a sudden I heard gunshots. And I just went like this, and I felt warmness, just warm, right on my back. And I ran. I ran as fast as I could. I woke up like 2 days later, and I had stitches down my stomach, staples down my stomach. The bullet had went inside and ricocheted 8 times. I was 15, and I had gone, he had picked me up over off of Pacific Highway South, and he took me up on Kent Des Moines Road. There used to be this flat area, and all it was this big field that dropped down. And he had a truck, he had a pickup truck, and had a canopy on the back of it. And I'd gotten out of the truck, he was talking about, well, let's get in the back. And I said, okay, so I went to the back and I went to lower the back tailgate down. And I saw out of the corner of my eye him coming at me with something over his head. And I kicked him in the nuts and took off running. Ran out of my shoes, ran as fast as I could, as fast as my feet would carry me. I ended up rolling down the hill. I got down to the bottom of the hill, and someone picked me up. I was breathing hard, and I started hitchhiking, and they took me right back up to Pack Highway. And that was the last I heard from her. I didn't know that it was him until they caught him. I didn't know that I'd gotten away from the Green River Killer until he was actually caught. I was so scared. I was so scared when I left my pen. He had even left town, and I hid out for almost 3 months. I was so scared that he was going to find me and he was going to kill me. I don't think that law enforcement should punish girls, at least underage girls. I think that they should realize that it's a bigger problem than just being out on the streets prostituting, that a lot of times the girls have nowhere else to go and they know nothing else. It's so secretive here. It's like no one knows about it. I mean, I tell people all the time, you know that Portland and Seattle, are the largest hubs, sex trafficking hubs in the entire nation, the West Coast. And people don't believe it. They think of places like Las Vegas, New York, and it's not there. It's here. We're close to Mexico. We're on the coastline. We're close to Hawaii. I mean, there's a lot of places and it's easy to traffic girls to Canada. It's very easy.
So we have a great staggering problem, and we need great teams of people to rise up, know what's going on, and know how to recognize and dial 911. People who will say, if we lose a kid in our city, we will go look for that child. We will go do a stakeout and dial 911, have the police come and check that situation out. We will hand out flyers. We will look for kids. We will go through fields. We will try to find any situation where we think there's something bad going on and report it to 911.